you know about this? Marty wants to cut my dates.
He said he needs to appeal to a younger crowd. You need to do something about this, Jimmy.
I want to dive in. I think my most burning Jean Smart icon. We'll get that out of the way, of course. But
That's a headline, Jean Smart icon.
Interview over, actually. So I'll see you guys
All right. Icon.
Enjoy the heat. Bye.
But my most burning question is truly just for each of you, what is your go-to Jean Smart role? Do you have a favorite or one that made an early impression on you? Paul, I'll start with you because you're in the top left for me.
Thank you. I do believe men should go first, so thank you. I gotta say, I really, as much as I love a lot of her dramatic work, she really stole the Brady Bunch movie for me, and I love that performance. It's so good and so funny. She's just so liquid funny. So that's mine.
I will say I love her on Frasier. I just loved any time that when she had that arc with just screaming at her son, and it just like to me, I'm like, there's nothing better than Jean Smart screaming.
I gotta go designing women. I love designing women, and I know that's where I.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Hey, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, obviously Jean is someone that can truly do anything. But I'm curious, in what ways did what she bring to the show surprise you guys? What surprised you about seeing her step into Deborah Vance?
Well, she's really, I think, she's a Tony nominee and an Emmy winner, and she's just like such a gifted actor. But it was really remarkable to see her work because we've been lucky enough to work with a lot of really talented comedians who also happen to be talented actors. But Jean, you're like, well, this is an actor, so what is this going to be like? Is also a comedian at heart. She's just so liquid funny, and she was able to make jokes really sing. And, I do think there's a musicality to selling the timing of a lot of jokes, and she just knows it, and she's really funny in real life. Like if you watch her, you watch interviews she's done, she just is super funny. So
really dry, really quick.
Yeah,
we're on a text chain, like the four of us, and she makes the funniest jokes.
Yeah, we're always like,
I know,
shit, we're
I'm
not
like-
as funny as her.
I'm like, should you be a writer in the show?
Yeah. Sometimes she does rate the cockroach in my salad. That was Jean Smart.
That was
That's right.
improvised,
Jean
yeah.
line?
Yeah, that's a
Whoa.
Jean line. Yeah.
Gotta
Well,
give it
I
up to
feel-
the queen.
Yeah, I feel like people would pay money to just like get a glimpse of this text thread. Then, like, is Jean
I
sending you
think
guys memes?
they would. There are memes. There are emojis, and there are one-liners that you wouldn't believe.
Will end your life.
Wait, Paul, I think a few times you've said the phrase liquid funny, which I don't know if I've heard a lot before, but I feel like I know what you're saying there. Could you explain that a little bit more and how it relates to what Jean does?
I just mean that there are just some people who are just funny in their bones. They're just built funny. And what's interesting is a lot of times, I think it's sometimes hard for someone who is just liquid funny to be taken seriously because a lot of times you just want to laugh at them. But Jean is somebody who is so good at dramatic work as well. She is just a really unique performer, and she has such command of her instrument. And I honestly, I know we created the show, and so I would say this, but I do think she's at the top of her game. I mean, she really is so good.
She's also so pretty.
That's
what I want to add.
The other part of this puzzle, I mean, there's many pieces, of course, but the other big part is Hannah as Ava. And I think she's brilliant. And I know that you guys had talked about, really casting a wide net in terms of trying to find this role. So I'm curious, when you were doing that, what were you looking for? And then the other half of that question is, what did Hannah bring to this role, and how did she help shape who Ava is?
I think we saw over 400 women for this part.
Binders of women.
Binders of women. Yeah, we called them it, and we got the binders.
Same ones.
And it was because when you have Jean, right? You're like, okay, this is a person who can do comedy and drama so incredibly well. Who can go toe to toe with this person and also bring both of those elements? So our search was, we saw a lot of women who were incredibly gifted dramatic actresses, but kind of to go to what Paul was saying, we didn't, maybe they weren't comedians. And then we saw a lot of comedians who were maybe didn't feel like the dramatic part, it just wasn't connecting as much. And so when we saw Hannah, we were just like truly blown away because we didn't know who she was. We'd never seen her. She's never really been in any.
She's never been seen.
She's never been seen. And so she just is so like deeply funny, like in her bones, like Paul said. And that is something that she brings to the role that I think just you can't discount how important that is when you're going up against Jean and they need to be funny and they need to be sparring with each other. And so that is so important. And then I think on the dramatic side, this is going to sound absolutely like crazy, but I'm like, I think Hannah's changed how I think about acting. I've worked with so many talented actors. So I've been so lucky in my career, but there's a level of you're like, oh, what a pro, they've been doing this. And to see Hannah bring such like authenticity and emotion to the role, it made me realize like so much of acting, and maybe I'm just stupid, I haven't thought about acting enough, but I'm like, oh, it's like Hannah is so deeply in touch with her humanity and empathy that I think that is what just really comes out in this part, and what I think for all of us we've like really fallen in love with, and what hopefully audiences will really connect with, because I think she just does such an incredible job.
And I think you can tell beneath the surface that Ava is good because Hannah is good, like a good person. And because you're meeting Ava and like she's still kind of annoying and entitled and a brat. And you're like, why do I want her to do well? Like, but I think there's just something right below the surface that you can tell, like there is something there. There's a heart there that she's going to get there. She'll get there. And I think that's a testament to Hannah, her ability and her innate likability. And I think, you know, for somebody who you start out kind of not necessarily rooting against, there has to be something really likable about the actor. And I think that Hannah has it.
I also wanted to ask about, I guess I had read that the germ of this idea has kind of been kicking around since you guys were working on Paul's episode, The Characters, which brilliant show, brilliant episode. I think about the little kiss sketch. I think about that always. Burned in my brain.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. It's commentary. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very deep. A lot of layers to that. So at what point did this idea start to take shape? And then, for lack of a better way to point this question, what was the evolution to this point that we're at right now?
Well, yeah, we were driving to Portland, Maine to a Monster Jam monster truck rally where I filmed the big truck sketch. And Lucia and Jen were there to help me make that funny because we've been, you know, creative collaborators, partners for a long time. And it was on that trip in the car. And this happens a lot when we're moving or traveling or, you know, hanging out, that something will come up. But we started to talk about women like Deborah Vance who you may not have appreciated. Like there's a lot of people, both stand-ups and in comedy, but also just in entertainment and in culture in general. I think there's a lot of women who were either cast to the side or were not given the same acclaim that their male counterparts were. And it's only, you know, if you're lucky enough to watch a documentary or read an obituary and you're like, whoa, the impact they had on their profession. I didn't even know that because it wasn't something that was common knowledge. We started talking about people like that and wanting to tell a story like that. And we've been working on a bunch of stuff, but every time we get together, we were like pitching on it. Ideas would just come. And so we started emailing each other back and forth ideas. And eventually, once we finally had the time to pitch it, we found a home, and HBO Max really understood the show and what we were trying to do. And we're lucky enough that from finally getting to pitch it to making it has been actually a very short amount of time. So it's crazy. It's coming out in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We actually technically shot our very last shot last night.
I was going to ask because I feel like, this did come together really, really quickly. So the last shot of the first season wrapped last night.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. I think, you know, hearing you say that, Paul, I'm kind of immediately reminded of like Joan Rivers, whose heyday was, well, I mean, she never wasn't in her heyday, but you know, she came out onto the scene before my time, but I saw that piece of work documentary probably right after she passed, and it was just like, holy shit, like this person really was out there like breaking boundaries. And I know that Deborah is kind of her own beast, her own creation, but were you looking at Joan? Were there other comics that you were looking at, or just talent in general that you were looking at in shaping this?
I mean, I think Joan certainly, but it's an amalgamation of so many people in the entertainment industry, stand-ups and non-stand-ups. I mean, there's Carrie Fisher and Elaine May, you know, who started out, because Deborah started out in a 2-person comedy live show that became kind of a TV show. So she kind of has that bit of history.
Lucille Ball.
Yeah. Elaine Boozler, even, Phyllis Diller. I mean,
Debbie Reynolds.
Yeah. And, you know, Susie Essman is somebody who we worked with on Broad City, who is just truly one of the absolute best stand-ups living. And I'm like, how is she not like on billboards all over Sunset Boulevard, like every 6 months with a new stand-up special that's on Netflix? I'm like, this woman is unbelievable. And it's just kind of like the idea of there's so many of these kinds of women that whether it was because of the time and the piece of work, I think is a great example of this, but like we don't always realize the impact they had on this industry or until it's too late or until just later in their careers, and maybe they just aren't getting the same opportunities or appreciation as so many of their male counterparts, even if they had to work 10 times harder. And I think that was a big inspiration for us, and especially for Jen and I as two women in the industry. We don't necessarily appreciate the shoulders of the women that we stand on. And for us, Ava gives us a glimpse of somebody who maybe doesn't appreciate somebody like that, but at first, but over the course of getting to know her and kind of understanding more of the context, really starts to grow that appreciation. And so I think for us, maybe that's a little bit of our point of view, but these women, did it in a time where it was literally not always even safe to do it, but they did it anyway because they were good and they had to be good. And that's something that I will say, even for myself, I feel like I've taken for granted that it still sucks and it's still hard. I'm still condescended to do constantly, but it's a lot less work. It's a lot better than it used to be.
What if we all started to weep?
I'm pulling back tears. Yeah. Speaking of, I think maybe I have time for one more. Speaking of people who absolutely deserve billboards, thank you for putting Meg Stalter on TV. I think she's brilliant. I moved from Chicago, so I got to see a lot of her doing stand-up there.
Fun.
Great.
Big fan. How much of was it like, okay, we need to find a place for Meg in this, or was this an audition process too? Like how did we find Meg for this role?
Well, we had this character before, honestly, because we've been talking about the show for so long, we had this character in the show, but once we started to become aware of Meg, we were like, oh, Meg might be great for this. And we started to kind of mold it in that way. And then she came and did a show in LA and was so incredibly good live. It was like, it's hers to lose, but she still auditioned because, again, it's like, there's a lot of people, it's HBO, there's a lot of people that want to watch and weigh in, but it was so undeniable when she did it. And so we've been able, I hope, to really write to Meg's strengths and give Meg a space to like be the character, because she is Kayla, she's not Meg, but still do the thing that is so magical about Meg, I think, in it. So we're so excited for more people, hopefully, to see Meg.
Yes.
Yeah, she's brilliant. Real quick, Paul and Lucia, are you guys in the same room?
We are.
All three of us.
We're actually all in the same
This is blowing my mind. Oh, that's really beautiful.
We're a pod.
We're never not together.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, we were literally working on this until midnight last night. Like, of course.
How's it going in Vegas? You and Deborah Vance, Thelma and Louise yet, or what?
No, but I do want to drive off a cliff. Okay, you ready to do some work? Let's see. Feet, toes, pedicure.
Wow. It's like watching Picasso sing.
You mean paint?
No.